Amber's over here for Popternative, speaking with Patricia Allison about Paradise, streaming on March 21st. Patricia, welcome to Popternative.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I want to admit that Westerns aren't my genre of choice, that
hmm
those aren't the films that I usually gravitate towards. But after watching Paradise, I feel like I might need to check some more out. So,
hmm
what was it about this script that attracted you to the role?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question. I think it's a nice take on a modern day Western with
Hmm.
young folk who seem sort of like in this place that is otherworldly and inhibited by laws and I don't know other ways of living.
Right.
This island, this paradisical place, but you're sort of bored and there's nothing to do. So there's also that aspect of it,
Hmm.
which I think really is fun about Westerns. What's the reason people brawl and how good are they really? And there's a lot of that in this where it's sort of like, you know, echoing towards it. There's a funness to the genre,
Yeah.
which I feel like really lends itself to the comedy of this film because it can get quite serious at times. You're dealing with a lot of like big subjects.
Hmm.
How can one little girl deal with so much trauma? That's
Yeah.
the question. And how
Yeah.
does she do it? And so it's also kind of a fun take to see a kind of a wild girl who hasn't really got herself together, who is in a lot of pain and rage. And I was really interested in that. I was interested in seeing the vulnerability in that and seeing like
Hmm.
how can this cat like is there a way of seeing somebody like this being vulnerable as well, or like finding something that is triggering that is real, that brings her to earth. So that's what I wanted to explore when I first read the script. But yeah, I was like, this is kind of fun. This looks badass.
Yeah, yeah. And Ella definitely is a badass, especially when she comes to her gunslinging skills. So for that specifically, what was that training like? Like, were you familiar with dealing with weapons in that form? Like, what was it like preparing for those gunslinging scenes?
Okay, so I was quite initially very nervous about this because weaponry, like again, being from the UK, we don't really have the same exposure to guns as maybe you do in the US. So
Okay.
there was a lot of learning for me, first and foremost, understanding what this weapon was and understanding the difference between an automatic and a non-automatic pistol and all of those things. So that first of all, education. I then had to like sort of train my body, physically train
Hmm.
my body. Like I did
Yeah.
not have the muscle strength in my fingers. I play guitar, but that means shit. That doesn't mean anything when it comes to
Yeah.
holding this massive pistol that weighs a ton and walking around with it on my leg and not getting a limp. So trying to specifically get my body in the right shape and working
Right.
out and making sure I was exactly exercising my muscles and doing these weird sort of exercises with the 5 pound weight, like sort of just to lift it to try and make it look
Yeah.
sexy and not to try and make it look like I was, like loading a hammer and sort of playing like,
Right. I mean, it
you know
looked
what I
good.
mean?
It looked great on screen.
I mean, it took a while. It did take a while, I have to say, but yeah, it was fun, and I mean, also just like the whole thing of just like as I say, holding the gun, holding it in place, and doing all of that stuff. This character would have done this a lot, so that was something that I had to get used to doing without looking tired or like my body looking like it was tired, because there's one
Right.
thing acting a specific way. But as I always say, your voice and your body do not lie. So if you do not have the muscles to hold yourself in this position, there's no way you're going to convince the rest of the world that you are doing this.
A
So
pro. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, in
I
my
get
spare
it.
time in my hotel room, this is what I was doing. It was just there, like just working out and trying to get my hands strong. Yeah.
Hmm. How technical were those scenes? Because there's one scene in particular that I'm thinking about, where there's like a big shootout situation. So
Mhm.
like what went into, you know, laying stuff out like that or like actually shooting that when it came time when the cameras were rolling?
Okay, so a lot of conversations beforehand about what we're going to be doing, lots of rehearsals before we even get on set. Actually, we
Okay.
have to like rehearse the sequence with everybody, making sure we knew exactly what moves were what. So there's so many moves as well in there, which all require specific, like, like speed or whatever. So we had to also
Hmm.
make sure that worked between us before we even got camera involved or the crew. So then once they get involved, it's all about us stepping through the space. And we had this huge sort of action sequence where it was actually like a kind of a dark room, so there's like it's
Yeah.
dark and there's a lot of like flashing, and you're like, it's genuinely dark, so you're like running at full speed and like hiding behind stuff, and you
Yeah.
have to make sure you've got the right flat. And I have to say, it took a while. It's because you learn your moves and then you get into the space and you're putting the work in the space, and you'll find, oh, okay, that doesn't work as much anymore, or this that. So there's adjustments that have to come into play, and everybody's got to be super keen to kind of work together and be very patient, because it can take a lot of time.
Yeah.
um, and you have to remember, at the end of the day, you're making something on film. So for me, my thing is to also serve the camera, serve the DP, serve the director and what they want, and make sure that like I don't get in a frenzied, so also not going too quickly, so making it look like I'm doing everything really fast but slowly,
Right.
just so the
Yeah.
camera has time to catch you, and like and not being not kind of, yeah, just the timing is just essential. It's just everybody's got to be on the same page as a crew, just the same kind of mind. You're all together in this one sequence. It's more so than anything else, because it feels like you're dancing with everybody. um
Gotcha.
Everybody's moving, so it's like, okay, we all have to be on one mind. There's no there It's really a meditation at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned earlier about how Paradise has a lot of comedy sprinkled in it, and I did find a lot of humorous moments, despite it being like, this heavy theme behind it. And I think a lot of that had to do with your co-star Miles
Miles.
Evans. Um, so what was it like working with him, and how did you guys begin to
um
build that friendship chemistry that it portrays so well on screen?
Thank you. Miles is the loveliest and easiest guy to get on with. The first he got out of the car and I was like, Miles, it wasn't hard to build a chemistry with him at
Hmm.
all, because as I say, he is an open, kind, genuine, honest person. So I think all of those qualities make for somebody who is very good at improvising, and
Hmm.
also really good at just being very warm and generous with his energy. He's kind, he's fully kind, and he's conscious, and he kind of brings this light onto set that is just a gift. Like you can't deny, he sees everybody, and he
Hmm.
takes the time to make sure that everybody is knows that he's there, and he's saying hello, good morning, and that's kind, and that's, people don't
Hmm.
have to do things like that. So
Right.
this is the kind of person that we're dealing with. So when he's on set and he's acting, he's extremely generous. If you can, he is so giving and able to try new things. And I don't know, just I felt taken care of, and everything between him and I was real. I mean, there were moments where I was trying not to laugh, because I was like, man, I'm supposed to be the serious one here.
Right. Well, hopefully you guys can connect soon. Like, I feel like your chemistry was so well that I would love to see you guys in another project. It was really good.
Let's manifest it.
I
Let's
know.
bring
Let's
it
do
on.
it.
Yeah.
So last few questions. Ella is set out for revenge in this film. There's no big spoiler there, but I wanted to know for you, do you think it's such an emotional journey that she's on? Do you think going out for revenge, do you think that would alleviate pain that someone is feeling, or do you think that kind of further fuels the anger and grief that they're going through?
I think it fuels pain and the grief, and I don't think that much can come from it, which is why I found Ella really interesting, because she's, as I say, we finding her in a really unique point in her life, where she's at a turning point, and she's trying to figure out how to become an adult and the ways in which she's going to do that. And she takes the path of revenge, which I think is hard,
Yeah.
and and she loses her friend Miles. You not Miles, but she loses
Sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, she loses her friend, and that's devastating. There's consequences to her actions then, and that's something that she never thought that she would be dealing with. She just thought that I'm going to go out and I'm going to get those guys. I'm going to get my justice, and that's what's going to be. It's going to be clean justice,
Hmm.
right? So there's also, I think, about this film, the conversation about, is there such a thing as justice, um and do we ever really get that satisfaction that we're looking for?
Right.
We did talk about it in the movie a bit anyway, with the grief and everything, and like the warnings off not doing it, and sort of enticing human nature to want to do that. So there's also that. It's not like she's in the wrong or in any way, and I don't think it's about judging the character. I think that's what's interesting. It's about seeing how she makes the decisions and the consequences that then affect her, and then how she then chooses to change her life, and putting the gun down. That's the end of the movie. She decides she doesn't want violence and she wants a different path. And luckily, she's young enough that she can do that.
Exactly, exactly. And last question, I have to ask about sex education because I think that was such a beautifully written and performed show. It touched on all things about sexuality, sensuality, intimacy. I just loved everything about it. And now that it has ended, can you just share any quick tidbits about playing Ola and playing this Black queer character on screen?
Well, I had the best time playing Ola. And another thing I loved about Ola is that she was discovering herself. I pitched her as this kind of character, in my opinion, this sort of an ambiguous queer character, who
Hmm.
is figuring herself out, but really is like trying and is confident in that, and is just not afraid to like make mistakes, in doing
Hmm.
so, in doing what she believes is right, and what she goes with her heart so hard that I was like, she's inspiring, and that can be so hard for Black queer people in the LGBTQI community,
Hmm.
because of their surroundings, the people, the families that they come from might not be accepting, or their friends, or that we hear so many stories in the Black community between having
Yeah.
to choose between being gay or being Black, and that's
Yeah.
something that is it's super sad. So for some to play a character who got to be herself fully and to express herself and go with her heart, I think is really inspirational. And I think it's something that we should be able to see more of, and hopefully it is an inspiration more so, for to
Right.
see more like this. And I'm Kenyan, and when I go home to Kenya, being gay is illegal there, which devastates me. I've had people come up to me, and I know that they have been seriously moved and like feel amazing about this show, and it's not about me just like, outing people or assuming people are gay or whatever, but I've had a lot of women who've come up to me and sort of given me a look and like held
Hmm.
my hand and been like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to read too much into it, whatever it is, but it's empowering for me that I've been able to do that. And so yeah, she lives so strong in my heart, and she always will. And luckily, because it's streaming, everybody can always rewatch it, so
Over and over
over and over
again.
again. Like, she'll hopefully never die. But yeah, thank you for your question.
No, thank you for your time, Patricia. I appreciate it. Once again, Paradise streams on March 21st. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.